Hello everyone and welcome to the Piercing the Cosmic Veil show. Today we have a very special guest with us, Sandra, and before Joe introduces her, I'm just going to mention the panel. So on the panel we have Joseph Jordan. Hi Joe.
Hello.
We have Mick Harrison. Hi.
Hello.
And we also have Jason December. Hello.
Good evening.
So Joe, would you like to tell us today about our guest, Sandra?
Yes, Sandra is one of our testimonies that we're going to be sharing with you today. That is the purpose of this show, is to bring these testimonies forward. And just to give you a little background about what this show is produced and supported by members of the CE4 research group. And our mission as CE4 is to share with the world the most powerful evidence known that exposes the so-called alien entities for what they really are. The evidence is in the testimonies of those who have overcome the experience, the oppression, the bondage, the harassment, the control, the lies, the deception that these entities perpetrate by calling out the name and authority of Jesus Christ and through a personal relationship with him. And this is not just we're dealing with the alien entities, but any type of disguise that these entities come in, whether it be ghosts, whether it be anything in the paranormal. Okay, we branched out from just dealing with the alien entities, but that's our mission, is to show that they can be overcome, and it shows us who they really are when you take the mask off. Okay, that's what this show is about. And Sandra here is a testimony of one of these that we can say that this is part of the evidence. So Sandra, welcome to the show. And before you start into your actual testimony itself, we'd like you to give a little bit of background on who is Sandra, okay?
Hi, I'm a Canadian farm girl out on the prairies. Married a Canadian farm boy, and we met in college. We're both environmental scientists, and we live just outside of a city in Alberta, and we have 2 kids, a daughter and a son. And I stay at home with my kids, and I'm a homeschool teacher, and spend a lot of time researching for my own sake, and nerding out and trying to teach my kids to use critical thinking, and volunteer lots on boards.
I got to ask the question.
Yeah.
Being with the background that both of you have, and you're on a farm, I've watched a lot of videos where they've taken farming in a lot of different directions. Are you guys doing anything special that's different from the old way of farming?
Well, actually, we both grew up on farms, but my dad rents his out, and my in-laws moved into town, and we live on an acreage, not an actual farm. So we're doing, I guess, some more trying to get organic with the garden, but
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, our environmentalism is more oil field related that we're involved in.
Okay. Well, where would you like to start, Sandra? You've got a very extraordinary story. I've read your testimony. We all have here on the panel read that. Where would you like to start?
That's quite extensive, and there's different avenues. But one of the first memories that I do have is when I was 3. My mom was ironing, and she went to take a phone call, and I pulled up the iron and I put it on my hand, and I melted my hand with the iron. And during that experience, I dissociated, and I was floating above my body. And my memories aren't as sharp as they used to be, but I could vividly remember my mom grabbing and freaking out, and she had a bowl of ice water, cold water, and I could remember which bowl it was, where we were at the table. It was just in the kitchen, and I was above where the ironing board was for a while. And then I could kind of see across to where me and my mom were sitting at the kitchen table, and then my body kind of floated over above the table and turned the other direction and went down into my body. And I have a few more other memories of dissociating also similar to that. One was just like I colored all over my body with permanent marker. My dad was scrubbing it off really hard and grumpy with me. And I remember watching myself get in trouble and get washed down aggressively. And another time, I will go into the next part of the story. My mom had, she's schizophrenic, diagnosed schizophrenic, and she had post-traumatic stress disorder. She had a really tough childhood herself, really traumatic. Her mom and dad were losing money. They lost a bunch of money and were going bankrupt. When I was little, due to stock market stuff and just family issues and everything. Anyways, my mom was suicidal, and twice as a child, I watched my mom attempt suicide. And one was she overdosed on medication and she was limp. And my grandpa and my dad carried her out to the hospital in the back of the car. And then me and my brother were just playing in the living room and watching her. And we're just told, you know, go back and play. And I guess the out-of-body experience was another time my mom, she ran out into the street on purpose to get hit by, she got hit by a truck, and I watched her fall over. And my memory is being on the sidewalk and watching her. And she was with a family member at the time. And I just remember the confusion, like, you know, little kids that age know not to run on the street because you get run over, and she didn't know better.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just very, very vivid, ingrained in my memory for years and years, and had no idea what it was. It was never talked about after that. I was just young, and I was supposed to forget it, and we were supposed to pretend everything was normal. And I'm not sure which one of those events happened first, her attempts. But after that, she was in a psych ward for 9 months, and me and my brother were in the foster system. But we were looked after by close family friends. We knew them, and they took good care of us. And but technically, we were in the foster system. And we're there for 9 months. Things were kind of normal there. It was relaxed. They had kids that were older than me and my brother, so it was fun and playful and normal. And then one day they were just like, "Oh, we have a surprise for you. Come go for a car ride." And we had to go. We went back to my parents' place, and surprise, my mom's there on the couch. And I just remember being so angry, and I didn't want to be there. And they tricked me into going on this car ride, and I was hurt, and I didn't want to have anything to do with her. And that would have been around September. And then Halloween was within the next month, or I don't know if it was a couple of weeks or a month. But my mom took me to the foster home for Halloween, and they're like, "Oh, it's gonna be so fun! You're gonna go back and see your foster, your foster mom, and you'll be so happy." And then I just like sat down on the step and started bawling, like, "Who do you want me to love? Like, are you sending me back here now?" Like,
yeah.
And before we'd gone to the foster home, we were just. My brother was in kindergarten or grade 1 already, so I was home all the time and he wasn't. And I was looked after by my grandparents for a while, my aunt for a while, and different family members and friends. But yeah, they had like newborn babies that they had to tend to with their own family issues. My grandma was in the hospital herself for diabetes, so it was just, I just felt rejected and abandoned, and I didn't know. Then I just didn't want to love anybody and connect to anybody. And when my mom did come home, she's on a lot of medication, and part of the medication was sleeping pills. And somehow for like 10 years, she took sleeping pills in the morning when she was supposed to be taking them in the evening. So she was exhausted all the time. She was just a zombie. And nobody picked up that she was taking them at the wrong time or that something was weird. So my mom slept all the time. And part of it, I'm sure it was grief and depression too. It wasn't just wrong medication. She had a lot of stuff to go through, but we were just told she was sick. And I was like, she's not sick. She's not coughing. She's not throwing up. That's not the kind of sick that I have. So it's really confusing and frustrating. And we just had to pretend it wasn't happening. And my dad was really stressed out and angry and controlling and frustrated. And we were scared of him. And so my mom would be sleeping all the time and we'd shake her and try to get her up. And so me and my brother were like half feral children. We just kind of did our own thing. My grandparents did live in the same yard across the road, but they did kind of help feed us and take us to do chores or something to kind of help out. But yeah, we kind of, and my grandparents passed away when I was fairly young, around 8-ish, I think. So there was a lot of middle elementary school years or in high school years where we were doing our own thing. Yeah, so then my mom was sleeping all the time, and she'd sleep till around 4, and then that's when her medication would wear off. And she'd get up and she'd have a shower and get dressed, put on makeup, have supper, make supper, so that she was happy and friendly and awake when my dad came home. So I'm scared of my angry dad. And then my mom wants nothing to do with me. And then she's super nice for my dad when he comes home. And they spend time. Me and my brother have to do the dishes. We got to go to bed early. She gets to stay up. He gets to stay up with her when she's good, kind of thing. So I really resented my dad. I hated my dad. I hated my mom. And not wanting to hate your mom and your dad. They're your mom and your dad. They weren't all like, my mom is super sweet and kind and gentle, or she is. And she's a people pleaser. She's had a hard life. Like she wants to be loved and she feels rejected herself. So she genuinely does care for people. And my dad, as things had gotten better, I'm not financially and just different stuff. My parents' relationship kind of healed and he was more gentle and I think more aware of how we were feeling, or I'm not really sure why. But anyways, things kind of improved. And yeah, so I just had resentment. There's all these different layers. Okay. Also, when I was 4, I innocently enough came across pornography. And instantly that just like snapped something in my head and was just like, what? It was just like instantly turned on lust kind of thing. Curiosity. Yeah, a curiosity, I guess, would be the best thing. And I'd sneak and try to find it. And looking at that way too young often. And I got busted, and my I guess I tried interacting with other kids in a way that I'd seen in the magazines and got busted, and my mom lost it and did the right thing and talked to a professional and got help. Or got somebody to talk to us and explain that wasn't right. And then I was embarrassed and horrified and angry and confused.
Sandra?
Yeah.
Sorry. Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Did your mum realize that you had seen pornography? Or
yes.
Okay.
She caught me with a magazine and took it away and told me that's just married people do that and stuff. And
Sandra, real quick. When you said when your mom was, when you were you were like in foster care and then with your grandparents, where was dad during that point?
He was working.
Okay.
He was living at the house. My foster home was only miles down the road from on a different farm.
So
Yeah.
he just couldn't balance, or the relationship wasn't like that, obviously. He must have been a pretty tough guy on you guys.
Yeah, at that point in time. He did try to, like when my aunts, my grandparents and stuff were helping, they'd have me, my brother for the day, and then my dad would have us in the evening. But he'd get call outs for his type of work and stuff too.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's one of those, yeah. Yeah, so anyways, after I got busted with this pornography stuff, then I quit doing that. But I was always like insanely shy and quiet, like wouldn't look at people in the eye. I even still struggle with it. When I'm in a really public place, or just I seem to be around certain people, like I have a hard time being normal around women, especially my age. But the age I am now is the age my mom would have been around the time that everything was going really bad, and would have been around the same age as all my friends' parents at the time, and the gossiping women and the people wondering, like, why are you staying here? Why are you staying with those people? What's wrong? Why is your mom in the hospital? What happened to her? And I think the anxiety, I find it way easier to deal with men. And when I did my oil field environmental work, I worked with 95% men or more. Yeah, so I was always awkward and just super quiet and shy and passive. And then I got to high school, I don't know, grade 8 or 9, and I was like, okay, I'm coming out of my shell. I'm just gonna be crazy. And I like pushed myself just to be wild and crazy and just do random stuff. I don't know, just pushing myself out of my comfort zone, and it was fun. It was a relieving, because when I was younger, I literally didn't have a laugh. I didn't laugh until I got my best friend in middle school also.
Take your time. Just take your time. Take a breath if you need to, Sandra.
But yeah, I was in middle school and became really good friends with 2 girls, which were total opposites. But anyways, I pretty much lived at their homes every weekend just to get away from mine. I didn't want to be at my home. Partly because it was quiet and like super quiet and dull. There was nothing going on there. We lived on a farm kind of in the middle of nowhere, away from all the action, and the part of it was I just didn't want to be there.
So it sounds like at this age you were trying to find who you were. You were trying to find yourself and almost separate from all the past and trying to distinguish who you were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I felt before I wasn't allowed to be me. I wasn't allowed to be someone. I had to, because we weren't allowed to express feelings, kind of thing. Like, I'm crying now. Like, I didn't cry for 30 some years. And now I'm trying to force myself to cry because it feels pretty good. And yeah, I really, with my relationship with God, I just feel like, yeah, carrying a cross is being broken. And your light shines when you're broken, so oil pours out.
Yeah, it certainly does.
Going through cleansing, Sandra. It's good. It's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more about your brother. What's he doing? What's he thinking of? What's your relationship like with him through up to this point? How's he dealing with all this stuff?
Well, my brother was also shy and passive and quiet also. And he, we had a good relationship. We had each other. It was us. And we were good friends. Like we, played together lots, but this, hate each other at the same time and protect each other. And I don't know if I really felt it, but I kind of just did it to play my parents, I guess. But he was the favorite. He got everything, and you guys hate me.
Uh-oh.
You guys should let me do whatever I want because you're mean to me. And so my brother was there. He's 2 years older. I did find out a family member that was involved in taking care of us when my mom was in the hospital. The time we were very young, he was being molested.
Oh, no.
I don't remember myself having gone through anything. And I don't know if I was aware. I think I was kind of aware that something wasn't right, that because I didn't get along with this person that was doing this to him, but I don't remember having an argument. I know that it was a she. I know that she didn't like me and that we would butt heads, and I was not the favorite. We'll just say that.
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything until actually quite recently that anything happened to him. But I suspected something for quite a few years based on knowing how I respond to some of the things that have happened to me. So
it's a very common story that we hear, that when kids are put into, a foster care situation through circumstance that has affected the family, and it's supposed to be a place of support, love, and protection for those kids. And we hear of this all the time. It's so sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It wasn't the actual foster family that it happened at, but it was one of the places that we were looked after during that time. Yeah. So he grew up and he was picked on a lot. We both have different personalities. We're both kind of eccentric in a way. I think one of the blessings of being feral children in the middle of nowhere is nobody told us what to do. And we kind of built our own worldview, or we kind of were open to interpret the world as we wished in a way. So it is kind of neat, or there is a blessing in that, I guess. So he was picked on for being different. We were always the smallest in our class. All the time we were picked on for being smaller and quiet and shy, and we would never stand up for ourselves. So we were an easy target and kind of get bullied. He lives an hour away from me now. He's single right now. He's had some failed relationships. Part of that has had to do because he was repressing his abuse and he didn't even know he had been abused. He hadn't had memories yet. And then, his last relationship, he kind of retrieved his memory type thing. But he's a professional. He's does instrumentation.
So Sandra, when you were in school, high school, you were sort of coming out of your shell and doing your own thing. What happened after that?
Okay, so I was coming out of my shell and I was getting wild and crazy, and I should say, our home was Catholic. We were raised Catholic. My dad's family is very strong Catholic. Half my mom's family is Catholic, but my mom is born again Christian. With schizophrenia, sometimes I'm like, are you actually born again Christian? Or I don't always know what my mom thinks or what's real, but I know she does believe in God. She seemed to have a better relationship, or like was more solid when I was in my kind of like my late high school years. She had good medication and she was quite stable at that time. And but anyways, as a small child, even though my family was Catholic, we went to the Catholic services every weekend, every Sunday, and did catechism, communion, all that stuff. She taught me more like Christian Bible-based stuff at home. Like she was more, she's told me she didn't want to mess me up and teach me a bunch of wrong doctrine or anything or whatever. So she just really focused on treat others the way you want to be treated, the golden rule, love others as you would, do unto others as you would do unto them. And so I did pray to God when I was young. I did believe in Jesus. I did go through all the Catholic rituals of everything as a child. And I've thought back, like, did I give my life to God back then? Because I was, despite everything going on in my life, I was really, really compassionate to other people. I really did like truly love people and want to have the best for them, and thought, everybody needed a friend. I befriended the underdogs all the time. And I really was Christ-like actually when I was in middle school. Like, so my mom insists that I was Christian at that time, and I'm like, I don't know if I actually was. But thinking back, I'm pretty sure I had the fruit for it at that time. But then we get to my next stage, and I was a runner and I was in boxing when I was 15, 16, and I was very strong for my size, stature, gender, whatever. And I liked it. And I liked being strong, and it was a good release, a healthy release and an unhealthy release at the same time. And I put a lot of energy into working out. So did my brother. One thing that we did for fun was we would like work out together. We would like make drills and push ourselves to the limit, and we would like MMA fight. We were like rough and tumble. He'd punch me in the face and we both get bloody noses. And
Wow.
yeah, I was pretty aggressive back then. I'm not like that anymore. I'm pretty weak now. But and then I started getting into drinking. At that point, I didn't really have an alcohol of choice, but yeah, I'm trying to think. One of the most memorable, kind of close to the first times of getting drunk, there was like everybody was finished their exams and there was a house party, and my friends, there was a bottle of whiskey that I think 3 of us girls were supposed to share, and I was only allowed to have, I don't know if I was given a restriction or I was just like, but I only had 2 drinks, but it was like half of 2 six of whiskey. And anyways, I ended up like falling down spiral staircases and staircase in the house, and threw up in my friend's dad's lunch kit and lost a shoe, and yeah, hung over for a while. And that was kind of the start of it. And the shy girl was outgoing and fun, and she didn't have to push herself to be outgoing. It came naturally when she was drunk, and she felt strong, and she'd punch people in the arm all the time and swear at them, and everyone thought it was fun for a while. But then I would get drunker and drunker, and then I get more aggressive, and I was very lustful, and then I was like, oh, but I was drunk, I don't remember what I was doing, and made excuses for myself. And I hadn't lost my virginity then, but I was quite promiscuous at that time, and very much throwing myself at boys, very interested in boys in high school, and dressing non-conservatively. And just while doing a lot of things to get under my mom's skin. I was very angry at my mom, and anything I could do, and she was very Christian, so anything I could do to get back at my mom for ruining my life, I was going to ruin hers. And I didn't relate my dad to anything that had to do with my mom. Like I didn't like that my dad was harsh kind of thing, but I didn't want to get at him kind of thing. I didn't have a bone to pick with him necessarily. I had a bone to pick with men. I was feminist.
Sorry, Sandra.
It's okay.
Just a question. Do you think that you said that your father was more abusive, but you seem to be more hurt by your mother, and I'm thinking that perhaps your mother hurt you more emotionally than your father. Mm-hmm. So that shows that those emotional wounds are so deep. They hurt so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Even with my dad, my mom was very old-fashioned, like puts my dad's clothes out, makes his lunch, like gets up and does everything for him, and waits on him hand and foot. And she's put herself in the doormat position. It's not even like, it's not a healthy, godly submission. It's a doormat. And my dad let her, I'll just put it that way. And I was not going to grow up to be like that. I refused to. She tried to make my brother do the boy chores and I do the girl chores and stuff. And I was like, nope, I got to go outside and I'm going to pick rocks in the fields and I'll mow the lawn and he can help clean the bathroom. We'll do both, but I'm not doing it all. Yeah. And so I was the girl that kicked all the boys in the crotch on the playground. And I was the girl, I'd punch guys in the arm or slap them across the face. I was really aggressive. I was in the Boy Scouts with the boys and the boxing, and I was in with all the guys too.
Right. Yeah.
And it's all this transgenderism stuff that's going on right now. If I could have made my mom mad by changing genders, I probably would have
done that, huh? Huh.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
I would have gone 3/4 of the way anyways. I don't know if I'd had surgery, but I bet you I would have pushed it. Yeah.
That says a lot about where we're at right now. What kids are rebelling against.
Yeah.
And then that leads to more things, right?
Yeah. Hey, I was just going to say, let's get back to this because this is really leading onto some good stuff. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come right back. Okay, stay where you are.
Okay, and welcome back to Piercing the Cosmic Veil, and our special guest today is Sandra from Canada. Take it away, Sandra.
Okay, so I think I was talking about partying when I was a teenager. So I started dating this this guy, and we were just talking about punk rock during the break. Yeah, he was punk rock, and he was played guitar in a band, had a mohawk. I colored it for him every weekend, and we had went to the Vans Warped Tour together. Had like all the chain. I had the collar and leather pants and everything like that. And I became unnaturally attached to him because there's no one I could be attached. I would separate myself from. I've always had this. I either separate myself from somebody and keep them away, or I bring them in unnatural, like not healthy in a way. And in some ways, like he maybe didn't even know that it was that unhealthy, or it wasn't kind of at the time, but I don't know, it comes and goes. And when I broke up with him, it definitely was like I broke up with him. I almost got more obsessed with him after I broke up with him. But anyways, we had a decent relationship. For I don't know how long we were together, a year and a half or 2 years or something. And we're both argumentative and both like the underdogs kind of thing. And we'd argue and I don't know, party and have a good time together. I was in the grade above him, so I went off to college before, and everything was good for a while. And then I was getting too drunk. I was blackout drunk about 5 days a week up in college, throwing up. I threw up all the time. I have what's called alcohol-induced amnesia from throwing up so much bile over the years. And it's when you end up getting some kind of vitamin deficiency. I can't remember which vitamin, type of B vitamin maybe. And you pretty much just get brain damage from the lack of the vitamin. And it has improved from what it had been, but I still kind of like lose my train of thought, or there's a word that I'm trying to think of and it's right there, but I can't quite grasp it. And I can't, like I've done a lot of research over the years, but I can't just rattle you off information because it's not connecting all up there. Right. But so I partied pretty hard in college, and I was drinking whiskey all the time then, pretty much whiskey on the rocks, and I would just dance, and I just throw them back as fast as I could go, and till I could barely walk anymore, couldn't really talk. I wasn't so bad in my first year of college for that, like in comparison, I guess, but I guess in lots of ways it was. I get drunk and I'd skip school the next day because I was throwing up so much that I couldn't function. I'd throw up for like hours and hours on end, and then I'd get up, I'd eat like a bag of carrots and a pizza pop, and then I'd throw up till say 4 p.m, and I'd go to the bar at 8 o'clock and stay there all night until close, and maybe party later. And anyways, so my husband was in college too, and we lived in the same dorm, and I was doing a good job at controlling my lust situation, not acting out on it, even though my boyfriend was living back home. But me and my husband now, we both liked each other, and I pursued him at the bar, and we were together and didn't really remember it. Told him the next day or shortly after, like, that was me. I don't want to do, like, I'm sorry that I pursued you. I have a boyfriend. That's not going to happen again. Kind of shut it down, like saying this isn't going to be an ongoing thing, and I'm going to take ownership for it. I know what I did. And my boyfriend happened to show up, surprise, shows up at my dorm. So I told him what happened, and he got mad, punched a hole in my dorm wall, and we ended up staying together for, I don't know, another 6 months, maybe not quite 6 months. And then the next year at college, I saw my husband, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna dump my boyfriend and go for this guy. And so I broke up with my boyfriend and we didn't even really have we didn't start dating even, we were just together instantly, right away, together all the time. I didn't have time to mourn my ex. I didn't have time to think about anything. It just, and then I found out one of my roommates lived kind of in the area of him. She told me a story, which my husband ended up telling me a little bit later, but his dad had committed suicide when he was 8 years old, and his dad had schizophrenia, and he shot himself. And he wasn't told anything about what happened to his dad. He found out, he overheard at a party when he was a teenager from some people gossiping or something like that. And so we bonded through our shared suffering and frustration and hurt and secrets. And we're both environmentalists. We love nature, and we had fun together. And yeah, so we became inseparable. And then I'd go home to my parents' place when college was out, and then I'd, drive past, see my ex's place, and just be kind of just went over like I don't know, just an unnatural kind of like obsession kind of thing, even though I broke it off and didn't want to be with him. I don't know, and then I would replay over and over the guilt in my mind that I cheated on somebody, and I cheated on him, and he was nice to me and he didn't deserve it, and my parents didn't raise me to be that way. And it was when, like, I have a poem book actually that I have from when I was 16, 17. All the poems are like being mad at my ex-boyfriend and being mad at my mom. And I just remember obsessively everything playing over and over and over in my head, my memories of what happened to my mom, and trying to piece it together because I never talked to her about it yet. And what happened, and why did it happen, and why did things go this way, and questions I had for her. And then I'd obsess over and over and over and over about this cheating thing. And it drove me to drink heavier too. One of the reasons I drank was to numb my pain, numb my feelings, my emotional turmoil. And I always float back up. I don't sink. And yeah, I just felt like an awful person, and from what I did, and I felt like I ruined his life. Just, he became really angry and bitter, and he kind of hated women for a while and stuff. Okay, I'm trying to think. So, okay, well, then I graduate college, me and my husband go off, and we're not married yet or anything, but we're dating, and we're living in different communities, doing different jobs. And I worked on the rigs doing environmental work. So I was 20, working out on the road with men, big groups of men. And first I didn't drink around them because I was protecting myself and trying to stay safe and trying to be aware. And then when I thought, oh, we're all friends, they won't do anything wrong to me because we're friends. And one place we were at, we went to a neighboring community, my rig crew, and I got blackout drunk, and the guy driving was 40 and I was 20. Anyways, throughout that night, and even like throughout all my life, I'd like sit on not throughout all my drunken party kind of times, I'd sit on guys' laps, throw my arms around them, and like, oh, we're buddies. And in me, I I'm just being friendly to them. I'm just having fun. I'm just being joyful and having a good time. But in their heads, I'm throwing myself at them. I totally want them. And only girls that are nice, girls are only nice if they want something, kind of thing. And so I'm thinking this 40-year-old guy is thinking, oh, she's like my niece. I better protect her from the young guys that are her age that would want to do something to her. No. I woke up in this guy's tent in the campground that he was staying in, and he was on top of me. And I had been passed out when things had started. And I had super long nails at the time. I just scratched him right up. And I didn't necessarily try to get him off because I couldn't even walk. Like, where was it going to walk? Where is it going to run to? What was it going to do? There's other people in the campground, but if I yell, some of them actually worked the rig too, so then more people are going to know. If I don't say anything, nobody's going to know. It's going to be a secret. It'll be over. It'll go away. And so when I scratched him, it surprised him, and he pulled me by the hair and like shoved me back and kind of like, because it was kind of aggressive, just out of shock or whatever. And anyways, fell asleep, woke up. He was trying to be like cute and like kiss my back and stuff and make it seem normal. He was trying to normalize it. And I just pretended I was asleep. And I left later when I knew that everyone would be gone, and stumbled back to my hotel. But I just remember feeling so gross and cut off all my nails and dug out all the skin I could out of it and just showered and sit in the tub and could smell him. Like I could still smell him if I think about it. And yeah. And then there was another situation a month later where a bunch of us were getting drunk at the bar with my rig crew, and there was just a couple of, like, there was my rig crew and then another rig crew that was in there, and my coworker. The environmental companies all have workers for them. We're kind of different from the oil well company. Anyway, so my coworker worked with this other oil well rig crew, and so there's these two crews in the bar, and the barmaid and another girl. Another girl left earlier. The barmaid kept leaving and not serving people because she was having sex with one of my coworkers in the kitchen, in the bathroom. Apparently they did like a ton of times that night, and she locked the doors to the bar. We were serving ourselves behind the bar. It was just a free-for-all. We made some big concoctions. It was pretty much all hard alcohol, and it was just chaos. Anyways, they locked the doors. I blacked out. Kind of remember, I remember standing by the counter and some guy was like kind of giving me, kissing me or something, and I was just like, I don't even know who this guy is. I don't know what's happening. I could see over behind me that this barmaid and this guy were doing it on the pool table behind me. Stuff happened. I was with the guy that was with on my neck there, and then apparently the barmaid hadn't locked the door. All these other guys come through this other side door, and they're just like, what is going on, and freaking out and getting in my face and yelling at me and calling me names, and they had a Sharpie and they wrote on me, and my bra went missing that night. I don't even know what happened. The barmaid said, I better protect this girl. I better take her to the barmaid kicked everyone out and took me and my rig crew to her apartment. I don't know what happened in her house, her apartment. Then her boyfriend comes home and kicks us all out because she has a boyfriend. So then I go to the apartment to the rig crew guys. They take me there. I end up sleeping in another spot. Anyways, fall asleep, wake up, still drunk for like 2 days after that. Drove myself back. I didn't even know what was going on, really. I knew that something had happened to me, and I just wanted to just go again. Let's just not talk about it. Talk about it, it'll go away. Kind of knew this one wasn't going to just go away. Had no idea how to handle it. So the town cop, the barmaid was the nanny for the town cop. The cop goes to drop her kids off at the nanny's house the next day, and the nanny asks about, do you know anything about date rape drugs? He says, no, why? Oh, I was just wondering, asking if something weird happened to a friend, and I was kind of wondering. And anyways, it all got out. My coworkers found out. There was two groups of people there. One of the groups, the people from the other rig, one of the guys grew up in my husband's hometown. So people from my work know about this. People from my husband's hometown know about all this stuff that happened to me. He was actually one of the guys that wrote on me and was in my face and took pictures. They took pictures and videos with, like, thankfully little flip phones with like 3-second videos or whatever. But it was just chaos. It was chaos in my company. It was chaos in the oil field company. There was just drama and confusion and threats, and the cops were trying to make a plan, and then people were kind of giving away the information. The cop was saying, like, you were obviously like really, really drunk, and if you just took off all your clothes and they are the ones that did something to you, then they're the ones at fault because they took advantage of you. And in the end, she said, sounds like you pretty much took your clothes off, and they said, substitute, and I can't do anything about that. You were all drunk. You're all at fault, and nobody's at fault. Nobody's getting charged. No. 2 days later, my coworker had contacted me saying that she knew something was up. She came and picked me up from this town and drove me back to where I'm from, and took me to the hospital, and I got a date rape kit done. And date rape drugs don't last in your system very long. So even if they do a kit, they can't, lots of times they can't prove anything. You have to do it immediately almost. So they took the kit, they did everything, and then they wouldn't run it because they wanted to hear everyone's testimonies, their stories first. And they just kept asking me, like, are you sure you want us to run it? And I said, yes. And they said, well, that's going to cost a lot of taxpayer money if we run that. So,
wow.
I don't know. Anyways, it ended up being ruining my career. Well, I just didn't want to have anything to do. I didn't want to work there anymore. My husband didn't want me to work there anymore, my boyfriend. My parents didn't want me on the road. I didn't really want to go in public. I didn't want to go visit in my husband's hometown. I didn't want to go to my hometown because that's where a lot of the work was based out of. That's not where we were at the time, but just high anxiety, high stress, repeating that night over and over and over in my head, trying to think of all the different little pieces, parts that I could think of, and trying to piece together what happened and who was there and what was going on. And when I would drive, I would just cry about it all the time. And it just, in my life, I've just gone from event. Like, I did lots of stupid drunk things as a teenager too. And I just find a different event that was more traumatic that I just replay over and over and over in my head, and bring me more and more anxiety, make me more and more of a hermit kind of thing, recluse, push away from more people. a good thing that came out of that is I quit drinking whiskey.
Yeah, and with that, Sandra, with that drinking, I mean, I drank my whole life, and when it was to numb, right? It's to numb what's going on because we're disconnected, right? At this point in your story, you're disconnected from anything to do with who created you and what your purpose is. Now you know you have a purpose. This is common between every experiencer or everybody that comes from the show that's had any situation, like Joe says, that you know, right, Mick, that when you're away from, it all starts with the mother and father, right? So I mean, and this is common. It's interesting, and for all the people out there that watch this episode, young people or however old you are, and you're thinking about getting married, you really need to think about the commitment and take it seriously. Because when you do that, and especially if you have children, you need to have Jesus Christ as a rock and the foundation of your home. Because if you don't do that, your marriage will fail, or it will end up producing situations that happen in your life and in my life and in many other people's life. Because was your father the spiritual leader of the house? Doesn't sound like it. Mine wasn't. Was my mother there and active for me, and was she playing with a full deck? She wasn't. How can we, when that happens, the enemy looked at you and said, this is open season. I've got her and her brother, and it's on. You didn't know how to deal with it. We talk about open doors. I mean, so far in the story, we can talk about these things. First of all, generational things, your mother and father, who knows? I mean, obviously they didn't know how to parent you, either one of them. Therefore, how are you supposed to deal with anything? You weren't parented correctly. Generational. It probably was passed down. Then we talk about your father, the spiritual leader. Probably not. Mine wasn't. Mother was absent. That's tough. So right there, where do you have to go? Where, if you're not being led by an example of some kind, this is what happens. This is what happens. Pornography, molestation on your brother's side, sexual immorality, isolation when you're isolated, the drinking. And then you talked earlier about things you can remember and can't remember. And it kind of reminds me of the testimony we did with Mary when she talks about a fragmented mind. I have that. So these are just your stories. It's so different. I can't wait to get to the end when we figure out how we can eliminate a life, you know, with all of this junk that really unfortunately doesn't have to happen. But again, for the audience who's going to get married and you're going to make a commitment, a man and a woman, and if you've never heard of Jesus Christ, get to know him. Go to a couple counseling sessions before you talk to Lee before you get married, because you need to know that however you treat each other and however that husband and wife run that household, especially when children are involved, that's going to have a lifelong effect to what happens in their life. And all of this can be eliminated when we're following the word of God. So again, I don't mean to go on a soapbox. I just want, again, these shows are amazing because they're so different, but yet it's always the same. The enemy is there's nothing new under the sun. His tactics, I was talking to a brother in Christ about this. His tactics I'm seeing he's consistent with his techniques. And I'm starting to see this more and more. So again, let's get back into, because I know at this point you must be like going kind of crazy, right? Because now you have nowhere to go. You can't go to work. You don't want to go to work. You can't go to this town. You can't go to that town. I mean, this must have been a point where, take it away.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I got to talk a little bit. Lee, you started it, but I got to relate it back to where you were talking too, though. You were talking when you were younger, you felt that even though you were being brought up in a Catholic church, that you felt that you were probably still a believer. What Lee was referring to there, talking about the alcohol, And what I found coming out of being a non-believer to becoming a believer, and that happened at the age of 42 for me. You know, it took a long time before Jesus finally knocked on my door and said, "Hey, I want to be your friend." You know, once I gave in to him and started a relationship with him, that word relationship, when you've got a true relationship, let's say with another person, like your husband, a true relationship, you think about them all the time. You feel them all the time. Well, when you have that personal relationship with Jesus Christ, he's there all the time. But you know, as a new believer, I thought I could have both worlds. I thought I could still roll up that joint and get high and still have Jesus. But you know what? As soon as that high came on, where'd he go? But you know, he didn't go anywhere. I turned him off. You can't have both. You can't worship both gods. And that's something that she was talking about there, about you can't get to that point to where the mind is altered, because that's when the relationship stops. He doesn't leave us, we leave him. And that was the warning about that. And I realized at that point, even though 25 years I enjoyed being high, there was nothing like the high of a relationship with Jesus Christ. There wasn't a drug out there that tops that. Amen. There wasn't a drug out there that could top that feeling and that experience. And I said, you know what? That one's done, and I'm going to accept this one. And I can't mix the two, so I settled for this one. And that was Jesus Christ. Yeah. And I was free. There was no 12-step program I needed. I knew that right then there was either one or the other. And the one was so overwhelming and so powerful and so loving that there was an easy choice, you know? And that's what we were talking about there. And that's when you know you're saved. That's when you know you're born again. That's when you know you're in the book of life.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you.
I read that at the end of your bio. You're like, God, Jesus is so good, and we always have this hole as we grow in this world, and we try to fill it with everything, and things last a while, but they eventually they all wear out. Sometimes it, like me and Joe, it takes us a long time. Some people it takes. We're knuckleheads. Sometimes it takes other people.
We're all looking for it. We know something's missing. We're all looking for it, but as we're looking for him, the enemy's, hey, wait, try this, try this, try this, try this. You know, before you can get to it, he's sticking this in front of you. You know. And that's the way our life goes.
The enemy knows our weakest points, so he'll always go for the weakest thing that you have. So if your weakest point is, pot or alcohol or cigarettes, he'll put them in front of you every way so that you are so tempted.
Yeah, I look back at myself as a young guy, and, I was full on. Every weekend was just hit the booze on a Friday and Saturday night. You try and out-drink your mates and all this sort of thing. And I look back at just listening to your story, Sandra, and the embarrassment I sometimes brought to myself and my family. And you sort of just hit a few little points in me that I thought, I don't want to go back there. So I think it's all a natural thing, but at the end of it, you come out the other end like I think all of us have, or we definitely all have. And
now, like I said earlier, as parents, though, if we start off the way that He intends us to do as parents, we can eliminate a lot of this, because I've met people who've had an opportunity to have. I mean, if I could go back now, right? I've left wreckage because of my sin because there's consequences for your actions.
Yeah.
I don't have time to pay a price for an action that's not done. Listen, every breath we take, you guys, from this time forward, in your life too, Sandra, everybody that's listening out there, you need to be pressing in to your relationship with Jesus Christ. We talked about this on the break. We don't need to talk about religion. We don't need to talk about politics. We don't need to talk about the church. It's a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's called the Bible. If you seek him and you ask him for the truth to help you and to guide you, get on your knees, lay down the street, do whatever you got to do. But if you come to him with your heart and you ask for what you want, he will give it to you. And you will, once you find him, it will be the greatest joy you've ever had. Do it while you can, everybody out there. Don't waste time, because not only can you ruin your life and your children's life, but if you've looked around in the world, time is short. Choose wisely. All right, Sandra, let's get back in it.
Okay, so so I was just thinking when we were talking, everyone was talking, I missed kind of in my high school years or my elementary, at nighttime, I was terrified of sleeping. I was terrified of going to bed. And I could see shadows and I could just feel stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was overwhelming and terrifying every single night. And lots of ways I didn't really think about it much, but I would wake up with scratches on my collarbone all the time. And they were kind of more like a bruise, like a scratch look, but a bruise.
Right.
And I tried to recreate it and I couldn't figure out how I was doing it to myself. But I've scratched myself after a bath when my skin's really wet and it's left that kind of a mark. So I don't remember waking up sweaty or anything at that time of my life, but I would always have these marks on my collarbone. I don't have memories of anyone coming in my room and doing stuff to me, but I was always really anxious, really stressed out at nighttime. And when I was, 13 or 14, I was at a neighbor's house and they had a show on about aliens. And it was just a gray alien. I don't even think I watched the show. I just remember I saw the alien on the screen. Something just clicked. It was kind of like when I looked at that porn and there was a click with the lust. This was just a click of like fear, just like crazy, unnatural terror. And that lasted, I was terrified of aliens for like 10 years. Like I wouldn't want to go to sleep. I was like 14 and I was like, Mom, stay in my room with me. I don't want to fall asleep kind of thing. I'd sleep with my lights on. Just like, I would think that the blinds were kind of like, I had vertical blinds and I would think that they were kind of like swinging open. I don't think they actually were, but just imagine, just terrified of aliens. So anyways, I talked about, after this, I quit drinking whiskey. When I was trying to stop myself from drinking whiskey and just like telling myself like, I'm not going to drink whiskey anymore. This has stopped it. I have to change my lifestyle. If I want to keep my boyfriend, I'm going to have to change my life to prove to him that I want to keep him. And we had both agreed to quit drinking whiskey because we'd kind of, whiskey's known to make people aggressive and fight and do stupid, like more than other alcohol types. It just makes people crazier. And it made me really aggressive and extra wild. And I remember when I was trying to stop myself from drinking it, you know, when the like music videos or movies where it almost shows like static, like a kind of like a staticky grinding, like crawling inside of a person, because they show it in an artsy way. That's how I felt. Like there was something inside of me that was just like, no. And
well, you have to wonder why they call alcohol spirits, don't you?
Yes. And also my drinking was very much involved with dancing at club type places, and I felt like a spiritual takeover with dancing also.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember sometimes being like, oh, this is just like I'm one with like Africans, dancing around a fire, and kind of felt that connection, like spirits throughout the world and the ages. Okay, so after this whole situation, my boyfriend was not happy. He knew I was really flirty. He knew I was lustful. He knew I drank too much. He knew I did stupid stuff. He didn't know whether to trust my story. I had been with him when I was dating somebody else. So he was like, and understandably, he had the right to feel that way and think that way. And so I had to prove that I was going to change my life around, and that I was committed to him, and that I loved him, and put a lot of effort into that. And we did keep dating. In some ways it got good, and in some ways he refused to talk about what had happened. We'd gone to premarital counseling, and I tried to open up dialogue so we could process through it, and he just kind of ignored that part and would only work on certain parts he was interested in working on. So we never really should have got married when we got married. We hadn't properly worked through our situations. So we started off tense or with unresolved issues. We were married for about a year before I got pregnant with our daughter. And that first year was pretty good. Actually, it was pretty normal. But about 3/4 of the way through my pregnancy, I think it just flicked emotions on in him that he didn't have before. And he was going through a career change, and he got a pretty awesome job, and he was pretty proud of it. And I think I interpreted it as he thought he was better and climbing the ranks, and he was I think I interpreted him as him just being really prideful and full of himself or whatever. And it was really him dealing with me being pregnant, and that sparking repressed feelings that he had due to the rape situation. And anyways, we didn't talk about it because we both grew up in families of passive aggression, non-communications. You either don't talk, or you get super dramatic and hurt each other's feelings when you do it. Avoided each other, just made things worse and worse. His job did require a lot from him. Well, at that time, a lot of it, he was doing more going out with the guys. He had to go to team building all the time. So then I was left at home with a baby, and I was resentful, and he was really cold to me. And just natural. I had post-traumatic, or not, I keep saying post-traumatic. I had postpartum. Not so bad with my daughter, but I did have postpartum, and just felt really alone and alienated. I had all these situations inside of me, all these memories, all these things I'd never talked about. Yes.
And I guess the enemy really plays with your mind when you feel that separation, like your husband's, putting his time and effort into the career, probably to help his family, and you were having a baby, but the enemy sounds like he was playing with your mind. Yeah,
I think it'd be definitely would accentuate emotions, to accentuate negative emotions. And I think you'd almost create situations in your head that weren't actually happening, kind of thing. You would imagine, not that he was cheating on me. I wouldn't imagine he was cheating on me, but actually maybe at a time I did do that. But you imagine conversations, you imagine you bring something up and you're going to have a conversation, you imagine how that conversation plays out, and then you're mad about this fake conversation that never actually happened. And then I always just I was mad at him, and then it's so then I'd say probably the next part is I found out later, actually, no, I guess I found out later, one of the reasons he was mad at me and bitter and cold was he thought that I had decided that I was gonna get pregnant, and I didn't consult him. But I told him my birth control was up. I wasn't gonna get more birth control. So if I get pregnant kind of thing. I thought he was on the same page as me. Apparently he wasn't. And he thought I was just being like, I'm a feminist. Nobody tells me when I can't have a baby. I'm deciding we're starting our family now. And apparently I found this out like 10 years after the fact. This is when we actually talked about it, that he was mad at me for getting pregnant without his permission or like consulting. So yeah, it wasn't good. That even though things were tense between us, we decided we're going to have another baby, and I got pregnant, and I got really big really quick, really uncomfortable, and then I started bleeding. I found out I was pregnant with twins, and I miscarried. I guess before I was pregnant with the twins, though, is when I started going on my spiritual journey thing. It was when I was home on my mat leave that I started thinking about things more and questioning things. And I was like, how come all schizophrenic people think about angels and demons, and how come they're all obsessed with religion, and they have the same type of they have the same pattern of thoughts, or they have the same visions and hallucinations. And I thought of some ghost type situations that I'd experienced. Like my grandparents' house, my grandma had passed away in the house, and I thought that my grandma's spirit was in there. Sometimes it felt like she was yelling at us if we went in there to get something, or walked by our house. And then in every house that I had lived in, I would say that the house that I lived in as a kid, other than the nighttime freak out, but all the other houses that I'd lived in, there was something kind of paranormal-ish going on. And so yeah, I was just started reading ghost stories, and then I thought about aliens, and I got really into that Anunnaki type ancient aliens, and they all have a story. So
what are you shaking your head for, Joe?
I noticed that.
What are you shaking your head for, Joe?
I noticed all these ghost hunters. They talked about that they were Christians, which now I would say that they were religious people, but they weren't born again believers, based on what I know now. The Anunnaki thing was conveniently gave a description for Jesus in the Bible and all that stuff, so that it made more sense than religion, because religion didn't seem to do anything when I was growing up. And I was obsessive with researching this stuff, and it was into the weird, like, people talk about conspiracy theories now, but these were the weird ones. I can't even think of them. They're like really dramatic ones. The alien people or the reptilian people, like to like a really deep level, and hollow earth and the moon's not really, it's like a spaceship, and all kinds of different stuff. And kind of in that time I would have been kind of getting into, like, everyone's got the spark within them. There's a spark of divine in all of us, and reincarnation and all that jazz. Because when I was pregnant with the twins, I remember waking up and I saw 3 orbs. No, I wouldn't have been pregnant with the twins. This was my last pregnancy that I saw the orbs. So anyways, I miscarried my twins, and I was devastated. I was at the hospital by myself. I had to get a DNC which was a procedure that they would do for an abortion type thing to remove it from my body. And my husband wasn't there, and I was all by myself. I did have a nurse come in that I did know, but it was just traumatizing, and I really had a hard time after that, because well, I just had a mental breakdown after that. And I'm pretty sure I had another pregnancy after that also. It wasn't confirmed with a pregnancy test, but I'm almost positive I had 1 or 2 pregnancies after that that also miscarried very early on. And it was Mother's Day. I'm not sure how long this was after my miscarriages, but it was Mother's Day, and I remember my husband was just like, so what's the deal with Mother's Day? Like, you're not my mom. Am I supposed to do anything for you? And I was just like, oh. And took my daughter, I went to my parents' place, which I was going to go anyways. I wasn't running away from my husband, but we had decided to he was going to his parents' place and I was going to my parents' place. And I was going down to my parents, and I had my little girl with me, and she cried 3/4 of the way to my parents' place. It turns out it was gas, but I don't know what it was. And she just kept bawling and bawling and bawling. And then I was bawling, and I drove by a slough and thought I could just drive in there, and all these thoughts will go away, all this pain will go away, all this loneliness. Yeah, part of me, I guess, wanted to get at my husband for being mean to me or whatever, and me not knowing. But also knowing what my mom did to other people and how that hurt, and it wasn't gonna make anything better. And I love my little girl. And even though you plan for an outcome, it doesn't happen the way you want. My mom's tried a few times and it didn't work out for her. And then you have the suffrage after. So I didn't do it, but I got to my parents' place and I was just like sobbing, and like I didn't cry. I don't show my feelings. They were just like, oh my gosh, like something is wrong. Like, this is not her. This is not good. And they convinced me to go to the counselor that my mom goes to. And I went and I talked to her, and I only ever had 2 sessions with her, but she explained that I was like a legit alcoholic, like on the chart kind of thing. Like, I definitely was an alcoholic and blacked out and had the amnesia, and that was part of being an alcoholic, a part on the list type thing. And I take this list home and show my husband, and schizophrenia in my family, mental health problems there, which we knew all along or whatever, but I hadn't dealt with I never properly talked about my rapes and all the situations that had gone on with me sexually growing up. So then when I had my miscarriages, that rekindled all the emotions, because it's taboo. You're not allowed to talk about it. It's in that area. It's your private parts. It's hormones. It's so it just brought all that stuff in me up to the surface. And it was good to talk about that. It was good to told her about my memories. She's also my mom's counselor. She knows my mom's view of it. She couldn't really, because confidentiality, but there was just a nice, I guess, I don't know, made me feel better, I guess. And anyways, it released a lot of stress, a lot of pressure, brought a lot of knowledge and awareness and relief to everything. And when I could share that information with my husband or even other family members and staff and friends, it made me feel less crazy, I guess, because I had an explanation and I had validation and healing and all those things that I've been rehashing in my head over and over and over and over again to myself and my demons. I could tell somebody that. I could express my feelings I could have feelings. They could see me. But yeah, so I had gone to this counseling. I felt a lot better. I didn't keep going to counseling. I don't know why. I haven't been back since. But I got pregnant with my son, and I was getting more into the yoga and the chakras and the chanting and the umming and the different hertz of sound waves and all that stuff. And I'd gone to a psychic, and but she was scared of me. She was I don't know if she's scared of me or she could see something. She was looking behind me. She told me I had a white wolf spirit guide that was really huge and protective of me. She didn't want to mess with it. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure what exactly that was about. But and I did some other things. I can't remember everything I got involved in. And I'd researched Islam and Buddhism and Confucianism and Taoism and all that stuff, and trying to compare everything, and thinking when I was thinking about it, and I think lots and lots of people do it, when you think about Christianity, you're comparing it to Catholicism. That's your version of Christianity. It's the most strict version that you're aware of or whatever, and ritualistic and everything. So it's not the same as comparing the Bible to the other religions, or comparing that religious system to the other religions.
Sandra, can I ask a question? When you were studying Buddhism, Taoism, and everything, what was the question that you were telling yourself that you were looking for? Was this something in particular you just had to have an answer to?
I think it was just the truth. I think I just wanted to know the truth. Mm-hmm. And with Christianity, when I started to read the Bible, I didn't really believe that it was going to be the truth. And I was kind of argumentative. I'm kind of, I like, if I'm with the right people anyways, I like bantering back and forth about stuff. And I just wanted to prove them wrong. I just wanted to argue about it, really. I wanted to use it as a weapon, more knowledge base, or for a good purpose. So yeah, I was into all this stuff, believing in reincarnation and all that jazz. And I was pregnant with my son, and I woke up and I saw 3 orbs in my room, and I was like, oh, the spirit that's gonna come be my baby is trying to decide who's gonna be the one, kind of thing, who's gonna come into my belly to be born, and who am I gonna raise. And at that time, I don't think I was scared of things at that time, or if I'd really noticed any paranormal. No, I wasn't scared. One night I woke up, and at the end of my bed there was a green reptilian looking thing, and she said that she said she was a queen of something, and I just was in shock. And she was green glowing light, and it was almost like the scales of a reptilian or whatever. The light would come out from the lines on the scales, but the other part was solid, I guess you could say. So just a weird glow from the outlines. And anyways, my daughter came running into my room at that time, and the thing disappeared, and I was just in shock. And it would have been quite tall, taller than my door frame, I think. Kind of hard to know exactly since I was lying down.
And those things are tall. I've seen one. I've seen a couple. They're tall.
Yeah. And that's
real tall.
I'm pretty sure I'd already seen stuff like that online in my research stuff before it was in my room. I've had times where I remember looking over at my husband and seeing there's a fake bamboo tree beside our bed, and seeing a woman, female type, bamboo haired, I don't know, it's just kind of camouflaged, purpley, bluey, greeny, kind of like shaded, like blended in with the shadows in our room, with this figure on top of my husband, but facing away from him. And I just stared at it for quite a few seconds and didn't move, and was just trying to like process in my head, like, am I really seeing what I'm thinking I'm seeing? And then I blinked my eyes and I didn't see it again. What other weird things happened? My daughter, we were at my sister-in-law's place. I remember we were both to like Sylvia Brown kind of stuff and discussing things then. But I had already had when I lived at my other house, okay, I already had a spirit guide kind of situation of my own. I had a dream. I think it was a dream. And some guy, he was like my type kind of thing. He was in camo and or like cargo pants and plaid shirt, and a little bit older than me, dark hair. Anyways, he said he was my spirit guide. He was showing me around in like the in-between realm, where it's kind of like it was Earth, but it wasn't Earth. It was kind of like in that bluey kind of purple green shadowy scale that this other thing was in. And he's just like, oh yeah, we just like, you know, when you die, you're just like, you're still on Earth, but people can't really see you unless they can hack into that kind of realm. And you just kind of like live your life. You keep learning new stuff. You can travel around the world. Like he hitchhiked into some other guy's car and just caught a ride to where he was going. That's all I really remember. He taught me stuff and was telling me everything, and I was just like, what? Tell me more. And then I remember trying to make that situation happen again. Oprah had all those guys on their TV about how you try to astral project and get into the realm. So I'd like lay on my bed at the same time every day and put out my intentions and try to get like back into this realm, and it never happened, thankfully. But then that sparks, yeah.
I don't know if you guys are catching what she's saying right there, but
Oh yeah.
what she's describing is identical to the same thing as a drug user trying to get back to that original high the first time, because that's what a drug user and an alcoholic does. That first time was the time that they always remember, and they're always trying to get back to that first experience, and you never can.
And it was escapism, just like alcohol and drugs is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I was obsessed with researching different things. So that's when I would have started getting into all the different worldviews, probably more. I was already like dabbling in it, but this just took it to the next level. I was researching all the time, like neglecting my child. Oh, in the other house too, I have friends come over. They had a girlfriend who had committed suicide, and we'd been talking. And this is after I had had my miscarriage, but I don't know if I was pregnant again. Anyways, I didn't tell them about my childhood or anything, but it really brought up a lot of emotions. And they left the house, and I just started crying like so hard, like one of the hardest I've ever cried. And it was so weird. It was almost like time stopped, and then things moved around in my house, and then the time started again. I was crying, and then it was almost like I lost track of time. I was in the same position. It's almost like somebody pressed pause, and my daughter's toy doll high chair, was against the wall in my living room when I started crying. Press pause. All of a sudden, this thing is in the middle of my kitchen. My daughter's sleeping in a crib. She's not awake. My husband's not in the house. Yeah, this thing's there. And then I was like, it's my babies are talking to me kind of thing. And I imagined it was my twins telling me not to cry, or that they were there, kind of a thing. And I didn't like obsessively, like, I know some people when they go through grief, they're really obsessed about your passed on relatives. I didn't necessarily have that, but I guess I felt like I had some kind of comfort from the spiritual realm. I felt like they'd come back, they were taken care of. Yeah, so almost all this stuff happened in my old house in this other town, and then the orb thing happened in my new house that I live in right now. Okay, and then another thing that happened, I'm not sure if I had my son yet, but I was at my sister-in-law's, we were talking about Sylvia Brown stuff, and we went to bed, and it was just me and my daughter had gone there to visit. She was laying in the bed with me, and she would have been like 3, 4, like she was quite young. And I saw these horizontal lights, like wavy lights, like this. And I think there would be, like, it would fill in a space. There's, I don't know, 6 layers of lights, maybe, about, that were in this line, and they were 2 feet wide, maybe. And I got my prop here. They're this color. They were like an amber color. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like normal light, like a yellow color. It was the amber color, and they were going like this. And I was just kind of like, what am I seeing? And I just closed my eyes tight and was like, if I don't acknowledge it, it'll go away, because that's what I did with ghost kind of creepy stuff in my other houses. I ignored it, and then it would just quit. Anyways, so I closed my eyes and was just going to ignore it. And all of a sudden, my daughter starts giggling. She's like, look at the silly lights. It's just like, oh my gosh, like, you can see those. And oh, it's just so creepy. And so then I couldn't see anything anymore. The lights went away, and my daughter is seeing all kinds of stuff. She's telling me she's seeing planets, and she's in space, and she's talking about the planet with the rings around it. And she's talking about this little boy and this little girl. And she's had some other story about they were taking me to this greenhouse. And I was like, whose greenhouse? Have we been there before? And I was asking her all kinds of questions. And she was relaying everything. Like, she was getting the information somehow. And
how old
she
was she at the time?
Like 3 or 4.
Okay.
And she's very bright and very articulate. And at that age, and she was telling me all kinds of stuff. She's answering all the questions. And at this greenhouse thing, I was like, well, whose house? I don't remember anybody that has a greenhouse. And she's like, no, it's not the color green. It's the plant house that's a greenhouse. Oh, and these bad people were taking me to a greenhouse, and something about a big truck and it being windy, and the animals were going to protect us. And she had all this information, and I could ask her stuff, and she kept complaining that her feet were really, really hot. Like, she kept like complaining that her feet were hot, and she felt completely fine to me, but she was kind of breathing a little weird. Her eyes were really wide, and her feet were hot. And I don't know how long it lasted, but it lasted a long time. And I can't remember the details of all the conversations, but it kind of went through those type of topics. And once, and then in the corner, like, the lights started here by the bed, and then up in the corner of the roof, I saw kind of like an orange glow, almost like a little hatch had opened, and a little bit of light had opened up, and then the thing was gone, and she went to sleep. And then I was able to go to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and I told my sister-in-law, like, grab a coffee, we gotta talk. And my daughter would talk about the things she saw to other people. She talked about the planets for years. She's like, that's the thing I saw in there. She doesn't remember anymore. Like, she remembers that there is a story and something weird happened, but she doesn't actually remember it anymore.
Yeah.
She's 11 now. But she remembered for 4 years or something like that.
Yeah. What I find interesting is when you are on that search for the truth, that's when all this happened. It's almost like it was designed to get you back off that search.
Great point.
Yep.
The enemy doesn't want you to find the truth. And we know that the truth is Jesus. So the enemy will put all these obstacles in front of you to get you going, wow, what was that? I'm going to look at this. I'm going to research this, so that you're not going that way. You're going that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Sandra, I'm excited. Can't wait to hear. How did you find Jesus?
Well, but I had my son, I even got more, I was reading the Bible before, when I was trying to read the Bible, like he's saying, you get distracted. I could not stay awake. When I opened up the Bible, I'd be fine. I'd plan different times of the day to read it so that I would be more awake. And I would just like get heavy and fall over like all the time. Or the phone would ring, or my baby would cry. And I had to just be like, I'm going to read this. I could tell that something was happening every time. And it wasn't when I was doing other stuff. It was when I was opening the Bible. I was doing like experiments. It would happen too once I became a Christian and I was praying. My kids would cry like the second I would start praying. And I would run experiments and I'd be like, okay, I'm going to lay in my bed for 15 minutes before I start praying. When I start praying, they cry. Okay, I'm going to pray like the second I get in my bed, and they cry. And it's just like, it was statistically, yeah, you could tell something was happening. But so when I was doing all this, one time when the kids were napping, I was doing the chanting, the humming, the vibration music. And so I was trying to get the Kundalini awakening thing, and it happened. And I could feel vibrating, and something was in me in my head. I couldn't think properly. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't get my mind to think properly. I couldn't carry a thought. I knew something was different and off. And my eyes kept kind of like rolling up into my head. And when my mom's psych medication isn't working, and she gets really off, like she'll keep looking up and she can't bring her eyes back down for some reason. Okay. And this is happening, and I knew that happened to my mom. It was creeping me out, and it lasted for about 2 days. And I locked myself away, and I was just like, Jesus help me, like I need deliverance, like get this thing out of me, because I'd already watched some testimonies. I'd already learned quite a bit of stuff, but I wasn't there yet. And anyways, I could just feel the pressure building and building and building in my head, and something like exploded out the top like this. It felt like my skull should have shattered. It felt like my head should have just like blown into pieces. There's so much force. And then I was fine after this release of pressure, and I didn't become a Christian right away. I went back to like half reading the Bible, doing some of this stuff, and like dabbling in between everything, but knowing that Jesus, there was power and authority in his name, knowing that I was delivered, knowing that something was in me. And of course, when you read all these Kundalini things and stuff, they're like, oh, if you don't do it right, then it gets too intense, and you just did it wrong. And you had too much fear in you, and there's all these different excuses built in.
Your vibration's not right.
Yeah.
You have to raise your vibration more. Yeah.
It's pretty much like it happened too quick, and it was so obvious that you were demonized that you couldn't lie to yourself. That's pretty much what it kind of like one of those is. Yeah, so my son, he had really bad eczema, and I held him all the time, like all the time. He cried all the time, full body rash. This miserable. I couldn't put him to sleep. I slept with him all the time. I nursed him all the time. Turns out he was allergic to like everything. He wouldn't take formula, so I had to change my entire diet. I lost 30 pounds in a month. I was eating like chicken and rice and carrots, and I was just exhausted, like and miserable. My husband was a workaholic. He was never home. He didn't have patience when he came back. My daughter was so jealous and needy. Like she needed me, and I didn't have enough energy I didn't have anything to give her. My son, he would pull my hair because he was in pain, and he'd pull my hair, and I just let him pull my hair. All like I had nothing left, My mom had, she came down with like some fibromyalgia, kind of like Parkinson's type disease, and she was in a lot of pain. She couldn't come and help. My dad had to look after her. He couldn't come help. My husband was a workaholic. He wasn't going to help. My brother-in-law, he's going through some drug and psych issues, and that just started. And my mother-in-law's having a nervous breakdown. My father-in-law's got to be there for her. My brother-in-law works away from home, so my sister-in-law's got a new baby, and she's on her own, trying to figure life out. My brother's dating a girl who's got a little child that's dying of cancer in the hospital. He can't help me. And none of us are telling each other our problems because none of us wants to stress the other person out. No one wants to put extra burden on. So everyone's I kind of knew a little bit more what was going on in other people's lives, but I wasn't sharing my problems. So then that's also making other people feel like you don't care because you're not helping them in their need. So I had nowhere to go. Like literally, I moved to a new place. There's a bunch of different new moms. I don't know them good enough. They all have like 3 of their own kids. I'm not going to ask them to look after my daughter. I'm not going to tell them my problems. I know where else to go. I had to swallow my pride some way. I have to reach out to a human being, or I reach out to God. Anyways, I put my son to bed one night or one afternoon. My daughter was having a nap, and I just started sobbing in my son's room. And I literally crawled across the house on my hands and knees to my room and stayed on my hands and knees. It's just like, God, I need you. Like, Jesus, help me. I need you. I can't do this on my own. I've been trying all these different ways to try to be strong. I can't. And I kind of like partially repented before, but it was really like only the things I'm comfortable in repenting about. This was just like, no, it's out there. Like, I was lustful. I was a drunk. I was inappropriate with people. I was lustful. I threw myself at them. It doesn't matter if the world said that trust only women and guys are only the bad ones and it's never your fault. I don't care. I know deep inside me that I made bad decisions and I'm responsible for them and I'm taking ownership for it. I don't care what other people. And when I did try to tell other people that I was trying to take ownership for something, that I was always shut up and I was always not allowed to finish my sentence because I was never allowed to claim any responsibility for what happened to me. And I know I'm partially responsible. And I asked forgiveness for hating my mom. I asked forgiveness for hating my dad, for hating my husband. I wanted to change. I wasn't very nice to my daughter when I was impatient with everything. Friends I'd slandered a lot because when you think everyone's gossiping about you or people are gossiping about you, my defense mechanism or my strategy was to trash talk other people before they had a chance to trash talk me. Even though I really didn't have a problem with them, it was just self-preservation. And knew that I did that. I knew I gossiped. I did some drugs, all different kinds of stuff. I laid it all out there. And the most like amazing peace, just like instant, like that love, the lightness, the joy, like it's just like totally washed over me. And it was just, I knew I was forgiven. I knew like it's like you stole something as a little kid and you're going to fess up and you think you're going to get like whipped. And then it's like, thanks for telling me the truth. And that's what it was. And it was awesome. And it changed everything. And then the desire, the lustfulness went away instantly. My alcoholism went away. I had a bit of problems.
Nothing ranks to that. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. I had a bit of situations like if you go put yourself in a certain environment, it sparks those kind of like feelings like, oh yeah, I could throw back a couple drinks and just, but if you keep yourself away from that, yep, the temptation isn't there.
Exactly.
And yeah, the like I was very crude. I swore like a trucker before. I don't swear very much at all anymore. I try not to, but I was very lustful, and I had perverted sense of humor and stuff like that. And now I'm like watching sitcoms and the sex scenes are coming on. I'm like shielding my eyes. My husband's like, "Who are you?" And yeah, he's like, "I feel like I've been married to like 5 different women," but yeah, it just changed everything. I didn't have to make it change. All I said was, "I'm sorry," and I meant it, and he changed me.
You did mean it. And you know what's funny is we all have, I think we all have a similar experience as to, we're going to go until our tank runs out. And what's crazy is what's beautiful about Jesus Christ. What's so awesome about him is that he just watches. He's just there. He's patient, and he loves you. And you could just imagine, he loves you so much, right? And he watches us go through this and just bang our heads against the walls, and he waits so patiently. And then when we're done and we're exhausted, you said I was done. I was dragged myself to the room. I laid it all on the table. I've never done that. I asked for forgiveness. I need help. I need you. I can't do this on my own anymore. And that's all he wanted. All he wants is that one-on-one relationship with him. It really is a beautiful thing. It really sucks that we can't figure this out sooner, some of us.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the story of the prodigal son. He's waiting there for you to come home.
Yeah.
I know. I think back in like a one way, it's like, oh, I lived on the rigs. I was like stuck in these hotel rooms. I was so lonely and bored. I could have been studying the Bible. I could have been digging in. I could have been ministering. I could have like really been on a whole different course at that time. But then at the same time, I wouldn't have gone through all the stuff to refine me and prove that he is real. And obviously it really sucks, everything that's happened, but would I change it? I don't, probably not. Now that I know that I can make it through it. And when I look back, I know he was there, and I was slapping his hand away, and but he was there.
I can tell you, and so can the rest of the crew here, that it's brave to do what you've done on our show. And it's the living testimony that gives other people hope, like you, Sandra. And that's you're gonna, as you grow in Christ, you're gonna have your relationship continues to grow, and you're gonna start knowing him, and he's gonna use you. And it's really an awesome thing. But you have been brave, and there's going to be women out there that watch this that are going to connect with you. And that's how he does it, right? You cast the seed by being brave, and we appreciate it. And he's going to do the flowering and the pruning, and he's going to work. So you've done just a great thing. It's awesome. And it's so great. How is your husband? I don't, it sounds like he might be a little bit, not where you're at, but I'll tell you, maybe I'm wrong, but I'll tell you this.
No.
The more you produce the fruits of the Spirit, and he sees your consistency, he'll want it.
Yeah.
I definitely have noticed, like I've been born again for, how old am I? My son's 9, so I've been born again maybe 7-ish years. Okay. And at first I wouldn't tell anybody because my mom was schizophrenic. She said a lot of crazy things about Christianity and Jesus and stuff like that.
They do.
And created a lot of tension within my family, and my husband's family is schizophrenic. So their eyes have already been on us, because you get to a certain age and stage, and especially women, when you give birth and your hormones change, that's usually when you would notice that there's an issue psychologically. So their eye was on me. So if I was going to come out and be born again and Christian and say all these different things, even about like world governments or whatever I've been researching, I better know what I'm talking about, because they're going to I felt like I was going to get locked up or medicated or something against my will if I did. So I didn't really share stuff for a couple years, and I really came out more in like about the last 2 years because there's more political unrest in Canada. And I just feel like if I start talking about stuff before it happens and then I see it happen, you know, maybe people start listening more and show them a way and stuff like that. I'm not good. I am being quite outgoing on here right now. I'm not like this in my everyday life. I'm still quite shy and awkward. I'm dissociative from all the trauma. So I have like a really shy side of me and an outgoing side of me, and that shy person clicks on in public a lot. But inside of me, that other half of me is just like screaming, like, I want to tell you about Jesus, but it's like the one in control of my mouth isn't like it's like 2 people in one. But yes, my husband has made he's more interested. We'll have conversations. He's reading the Bible. He's more, and then as he's reading the Bible, he's starting to research the background information like I had, because we're both scientific analytical type people. He's got Darwin's book in our house somewhere here. We've read Germs and Steel and all like the hard atheist type books and stuff. And but yeah, I remember when I first bought a Bible, I was trying to read it to my kids. He saw it and he just like chucked it over his shoulder and was kind of like, get this garbage out of my kids' room kind of thing. And now he's more like, he'll talk about prayer. He'll pray a little bit, especially like around a holiday or something, and we'll say grace and what we're being thankful for. And he's definitely he's softened, and we've had a lot of good conversations, and our relationship's really healed, and our relationships with our children's really healed. Me and my daughter really butted heads, and we're really mean to each other. Like, I was really bitter towards her because she always woke up my son if I could get him to sleep. She was like, oh, baby's awake. And I really had to work to be like,
only a mum could understand what she's saying.
She's a preschooler. She did not plan this. Love her anyways. She needs your love. She feels hurt. But anyways, I really worked through it, and we've made a lot of headway. And my husband noticed. He's like, she's different. Like, our daughter is different. Like, she would get angry when she would throw tantrums before. When she was younger, she would like chew on the wrought iron of our staircase to prove she was angry. And now she's a lot gentler and kinder.
Sandra, your husband, if you guys, when you said he's analytical and he's done his research, that's awesome. That's the kind of that, because he's going to find the truth. That's what's cool about the Word of God, right? It's the real history book, not the one we were taught in school.
Exactly.
Anyhow, this book here, it's called Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell, and it's a fascinating book. It would be great for your husband to read and for you guys. I'm sure you can get it on Audible, but it's amazing.
Okay.
Obviously, you want to get this one too.
Yes.
But we've got 2 good books here. But no, this is awesome. I'll just leave it at that.
It's amazing.
Amen.
Yeah.
Fantastic testimony. Fantastic testimony.
Thank you so much for coming on. I mean, as Jason said before, for you to just share all those intimate things that you went through, some very personal stuff and some, not so pretty stuff that you want to put to the public, but to make people aware that what you've been through and share that testimony, that's courage. That's courage. And I think that's Jesus too, wanting to show people that this is what you can be like before, and this is what you can be like after with Jesus. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. I really was reluctant about sharing a lot of those things, but you really don't get the whole picture unless you have all those little parts, and it played so much into it. And I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. One of the things I really want to add with my testimony is everybody involved in my life, everybody that hurt me was hurting. Everybody
exactly.
Almost everybody in my, not so much my husband, but my parents and stuff, especially my mom. Her testimony is just as wild and crazy as mine. There's just so many layers. Yeah. There's so many different variables and flavors and stuff like that. And then we're all interconnecting. and hurting each other. And I'm going to share scripture here that really struck me as something that I've really tried to hold on to, and that I try to remind myself when I deal with other people, which I'm not always good at conveying, but Ephesians 6:12, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So I'm not fighting flesh and blood. I'm fighting the demons that are playing puppets with those other flesh and blood people.
You get it, girl. You get it.
Exactly.
You get it. You get what's going on. Not only you're a follower of Christ, but you're awake. You're part of the team. So anyway, listen, guys, everybody out there, please, and for Sandra, your friends, your family members, when you're ready to talk about it, let people know about this show. This show is very important, and it's important for people to give them hope, just like the book, just like our ministry. And this isn't about us; it's about Jesus Christ, and it's about hope in Him, and it's about having that relationship. I mean, things are getting bad, and things are going to continue to get bad, but we can also have a peace, a semblance of peace, while we're walking hand in hand with Him. And if we can do work for the kingdom, because we now have found the truth, then that's what we need to do. So make sure everybody subscribes to the channel. Make sure everybody hits like, comment if you have any comments. If you want to reach out to Joe and talk to him, if you want to reach out to Lee, if you want to reach out to Mick, if you want to reach out to Sandra or myself, you can do that in the comments. And that's it. That's another wrap, and we will go ahead.
If you have a testimony and you'd like to share, please get a hold of us, because that's what this is all about. We have an avenue to be able to share these testimonies worldwide. Okay, we have an avenue to be able to reach those people that need to hear this testimony. We don't know who they are, but God does.
Amen.
And one more thing.
And
if you are going through this like Sandra or something similar and you need help, contact us. You can do our questionnaire and we'll have a session with you with many mentors to help you. And we can teach you the 8 R's to freedom and set yourself free in Jesus Christ. And we want to bless all the viewers for tuning into us and thank them so much, because the comments that are coming in for the channel are amazing. And God bless you all for everyone for tuning in and watching us.
All right, guys, until next time.
Thank you.
See you next time, guys.
Thank you, Sandra.
Yeah,
Bye.
thanks.
Sandra.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.